Hiya everyone. So we're going to start. We're on the button at the moment, and there's a few more likely to join us. So welcome again. We started with 2 webinars a couple of weeks ago, and we've had a break. We're back again. So tonight we're going to look through the preferred training model. I just want to go over some of the rules there, such. If you can use the talk box, the chat box on the side, if there's any questions you've got. We've got people online to moderate as well. So if you've got any questions in regards to what I'm presenting tonight, then please use that. If you've got any questions or anything you want to follow up with offline, please email me or call me tomorrow or at any time after the webinar. Okay, so welcome. The preferred training model is what we're going to be looking at. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. I know when I started introducing this 6-7 years ago, not many clubs, not many associations were using it. It was more as we'd always done. So I want to explain a little bit about it. I also want to talk about how I present this to parents, which I think is key. We've got some parents online, we've got a lot of coaches, we've got a couple of referees, but one of the essences of doing the webinars is to try and help you become champions as well in your own communities. So when you get challenged in terms of what is the preferred training model, you can explain it as well as anyone. So that's what we're going to look at. It is important to reflect at the moment as well, unprecedented times. You know, we're 8 weeks, 9 weeks now into this so-called social distancing. We are about to introduce next week phase 1 back to play. Hearing that Quebec is going back a lot sooner than anyone else, but we're in unprecedented times, and also events down in America are changing the way that everyone's looking at the world. So I don't know how we're going to come out, but there's going to be a new normal, and no one knows for sure what the new normal is going to look like. And I'm addressing this for many sports, and certainly soccer. For years, you know, we've gone out, everyone's gone out and watched. Soccer's been a topic of conversation, and it was cut off, it was amputated from the world. No one's watching it. There's no sport on the TV unless it's reruns. And I just wonder, is sport and can soccer take a chance to take a breath? With webinars I've been doing, I've been asking coaches what are they enjoying about the break, the lockdown as such, and they're saying time with family and to take a breath from the constant going out technical work on the field. They're missing the coaching, but they're also enjoying that. So if you can, in the text box, in the chat box next door, what aspect of soccer, if you had a magic wand, what aspect of soccer would you change for the new norm? What is the one area? And I'm really interested to see what you guys feel. I'm not going to go through them and address them. I will look through them later. But if you could change one aspect, and I'm talking here not a professional soccer, because there's a couple of clubs in the professional game that I'd ask to be taken out, but really grassroots soccer. What would you change, whether you're in Calgary, Edmonton, or one of the other districts that have joined us tonight? What would you change to your game and how it's presented within the community? So that's one request I've got there. I'm going to talk now preferred training model, and it's an interesting conversation because what does the preferred training model mean and what is it preferred to? And I asked this question of Dave Nutt, Canada Soccer, and he said he feels it was coined by the previous technical director. And so it's a preference to maybe something that was going before, is all we can assume. And I like the picture because that's how at times we feel within what we're doing within coaching. We're too busy to take that breath and look and consider what we should be doing. So what is it preferred to? And when I talk preferred training model, everyone tells me you can't do it. It won't work. We want games. The kids want to play games. They just want to play games. And this is an image from Hackney Marshes back home in England. And I'm not sure how many fields were there at one time, but going in and out, it was just games upon games upon games. So why are we advocating a preferred training model that has no games? In essence, we're not. The preferred training model embraces games. The players want to play games. What we're advocating is a new way of trying to develop the player. So that's what I'm going to talk through. So when the first question that we normally get asked is, but the kids just want to play, and they still get that chance. One of the questions that I often ask parents when I'm doing a presentation is, how long does a 30-minute game last for U8s? And obviously it's a play on words, because if there's that real rock star playing in that game, it will probably last 5 to 10 minutes. So what are the children doing, the majority of the children doing for the rest of the 20 minutes? And that's where we get talk of daisy chains and playing other activities that aren't involved in the game. So the preferred training model I'll talk to in a moment, and it accommodates the 10-minute game. So the preferred training model does encapsulate games. Grassroots soccer, it's developmental soccer. And I just want to put this slide up here, because one of the things, and I'm chatting to a lot of communities through coaching circles, and like one of the technical leads said, he likes the preferred training model because it gives lots of repetition at an early stage of development. The repetition that you may not get so much in a game if you're not one of the better players. And so that's one of the essence of doing the preferred training model. And I want to share a story that really struck a chord with me. I was in a community outside of Calgary where I live, and I'm talking through the preferred training model, long-term player development. And a mum put her hand up and she said, we're leaving soccer tonight. We're leaving this soccer community tonight. And I was a bit aghast. I asked, why? Why do you want to leave? And she said, because my daughter's the one who stands in the middle of the field. No one passes to her because they don't like her. And when she gets the ball, she doesn't know what to do because she never learnt the skills. So she just kicks it away. And so that's, for me, what the square wheel, as I call it, was failing to do. If we just play games, the children don't get opportunity for the physical development that's required to actually play the game. So that's one essence I want you to think about. Now, how do I back that up? This is child characteristics, and it's a real snapshot of a very important document. I like the first one, attention, at the top of the bar. It's like a lot of coaches that I know, and I'm sorry if I'm upsetting any of my colleagues out there. Short attention span. Active start, U6, short attention span, sensitive. All of us are sensitive right the way through. U6, gross motor skills, repetition, run, hop, jump, fall. We're going into fundamentals, developing fine motor skills, juggling a soccer ball. Going into learning to train, which is the 9, 10, 11-year-olds. Now we're coordinating the fine motor skills with the gross motor skills. So now we can learn to pass the ball. Now, the other thing that I want to look on, and when I've asked in the past, what would you want me to teach your 6-year-olds? I've been told team play, social skills, discipline, coming to me for a soccer program. And I'm thinking, the child is at home, following rules. They go to school, they follow rules, and then you want me to impose more rules at soccer? That's not what I want to be there for. I want to be there to play and enjoy the soccer with the children. So the bottom one, we, is important to sort of understand as well in why and how we coach. And we're proposing the preferred training model. At U6, they're learning about their body and how they move. 7, 8, and 9, it's still about me and me mastering my body now and mastering the ball. So again, we don't hear many children come back talking Pep Guardiola. We had 67% possession. We made 20 passes in 4 moves and we lost 1-0. They come home and say, Mum, did you see me? I scored a great goal. Did you see my header? So we're still on me. Now, the we really comes in, and if you've got 9, 10, 11-year-olds, we know where we're going there. It's peer evaluation. They're now evaluating each other's skills. My children were always captains of every team I'd done. Why? Because I'm the coach. No, they wasn't. They were far from that. But the children will start doing peer evaluation. I know on a program that I used to do with Mini Stars, I had a child come from my community onto the Mini Stars showcase. He was a lot smaller but quick. And we picked the teams at random from children all over the province. And what was really good is when I looked at him coming in, although he wasn't my child, he was from my community, and I felt an affinity to him, and I thought he's going to struggle here. And he never struggled once, because the boys on his team realize what skills he had and utilize those. He was small and very fast. So that's where the we comes in, and that's where we can really work on developing team play. So this is a 60-page document I'm giving to you guys now. Active start, we should be working on physical literacy with a ball. Hockey is doing the same, gliding on the ice, standing up, skating, tumbling on the ice, basic movement skills. Fundamental stage, we should be looking at ball mastery. So when a child's got a player coming at them, they can move the ball instead of just kicking it away. And then the introduction to team play is, again, 8, 9, 10, 11. And some people say that's too old, but it's building blocks. You can't play the game before you've, again, like the mum in this community before, her daughter couldn't play the ball because she'd missed the first 2 stages. So when we're talking to parents and they're asking, we need games at a young age, that's the reasoning behind it. We can't do it. It's like me doing a law degree. I can't go and defend someone in court on my first semester. I could do, but it probably wouldn't end outright. So where's the games? There's no games in this approach. And one community recently addressed this on Facebook and said that we're moving our child up an age group because this community is doing preferred training model and there's going to be no games. And they caused a lot of rumble within the community. There's 3 ways to do the preferred training model, and you can call it a festival. Station rotation approach are the 3 names that normally go with this. For me, it's not a jamboree. Jamboree in Canada would be face painting, bouncy castles. We're not doing that. It's a festival, and the festivals that I done, I will mention it. We used to do them with a high performance girls program in England, and every pro club would have teams taken to one college over a weekend. We'd play a series of 3 or 4 games, no scores, no standings. They just play games, but on every field there was a scout from the national team watching for players. Then we went home. It didn't matter what the scores was. The purpose was to promote players. So it's the same event here. We're bringing players into a community to play soccer. So the first one is a technical skill event. You could do stations where the children rotate through and just do individual skill stations. You could do on one dribbling, on another passing, on another shooting, and repeat that through. Another one could be the games event. And if you've got 50 children, you could be playing 5-on-5 and set the fields out so the children rotate around and play lots of different games, not one 30-minute game where they'll get bored after 5 or 10 minutes because the big boys scoring all the goals again and not passing. So there's nothing wrong with playing. And when I've promoted this before, some communities have adopted this slowly. I know when I was in Okotoks many years ago, they said that we're going to do a games only one on one Sunday each month. And that's fine. It introduced the parents to the idea. The last one, and probably the best one, is the combined event. So you might focus on dribbling and do a dribbling station, a game, a dribbling station, and a game. And in some of those games, you can mix up the instruction on it. So you could do different conditions for dribbling in the game. So if you dribble from your own half, you get extra goals. If you dribble in the penalty area and beat 2 players, you get some more points. So we're asking, you can see from what I'm saying, this is not a prescribed program. This is something that we want people to play with as a template to fit your community. If you're working with 5-year-olds and then 16-year-olds, it's not going to be the same program. I do also want to say, it's not a program that is just for grassroots. Everyone perceives this is great for U4s, U6, U8s. I used it with the provincial team. I worked with 2 female coaches on a girls team. We had a squad of 20 plus girls in the early stages. I would coach the middle group. The 2 girls would go on the outside, and the players would rotate around working with different coaches and getting different experiences and a lot more interaction. So you can work this with anyone. And if you look at the pro game now, even someone like Cavalry, the goalkeepers will be down one end, working away from the defenders. The defenders might be in another area. So this isn't rocket science, but it is something that we're trying to advocate within the communities in Alberta. This is what it looks like. And I know some of you might have seen this before, when I flash this up, I ask parents, what do you see? How many games can you see? And the gut reaction is none. It's a mess. It's chaos. And that's how we all started off playing soccer, in chaos. If you look at it, on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see two small sets of posts. That's one game. Coming across to the first floodlight, you'll see an activity going on. Come across again, you'll see a second game with about two teams of four. Go to the next floodlight, there's another activity, and possibly another activity behind the goal in front of the major goal. So I'm looking and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games going on in different sized goals with different targets. How many children on that field? I don't know. My insomniac hasn't got me to count the players yet. But I know I've done an event like this on probably a smaller field in BC when FIFA demonstrated this about 5-6 years ago. And we had 200 children in a dome from one club, and the competition was rife. It was fantastic to watch. So this is what it looks like. And I think when you break it down, you can see that's going to be better use of space and time. Rather than playing 22 players on a field, or if you want to break it down for junior players and doing 2 8v8 games across, you've got a lot more players and a lot more usage of that field. And there is games. There's lots of games. Now I want to tackle this question here. No teams. What I do advocate in a lot of communities is, so if my community of Cochrane, if we was in Cochrane, would we have to divide the players into teams? Or should they just come in and play as a group and mix up the teams each week? And I want to give the analogy that I give. So this is the Mini Stars program. If you don't know the Mini Stars program, it's moving away now, and we're going to have skill centers coming in, which is going to sort of replicate what the goals of the Mini Stars was. These children don't come from one community. They're at the Edmonton Garrison. They come from wherever the Mini Stars were held: Calgary, Edmonton, Fort Mac, Grand Prairie, Fort St. John, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat. They come from all over. So they're not put into teams of friends. And it's interesting, whenever I've got children together in groups like this, I ask them to come and sit down, and they can sit anywhere. And as you can see, you've got the 2 black teams separated from each other, the 2 green teams separated, the red teams, but the yellow team sits together. And I've been asking people, what do you see when you see this? And it's an interesting one. Some will say they see groups of friends, they see teams, and what you don't see is, so what I want to support is in this program, they didn't know each other. The coaches at the back were all Alberta soccer coaches. There were no scores or standings put into this group. They come together for a weekend. They were put together pre-event, and then they had to play together for the weekend. We could have mixed it up the next day. If I was doing a festival, I'd keep rotating and mixing up the players. Now, the beauty of this event was, on the first day, a lot of the children, like I explained earlier, were trying to find each other out. Who wants to be a goalkeeper? Oh, we haven't got one, we'll rotate. And they figured that out with the support of the coaches. No scores, no standings. But by the end of the second day, the last few games were like a World Cup final, regardless of no scores, no standings. Why? Because they might know that the blue team down the front on the left were undefeated, and everyone, including the coaches, wanted to stay like that, and everyone wanted to beat them. So that competition is innate. It's within us. We're not taking that away. Another thing that I want you to observe is, this is the Garrison in Edmonton. It's an army barracks. The floor is, it's hard court floor, but it is suspended a bit, and it's not a nice floor to fall on or do a sliding tackle. Because we took away the competition of scores and standings, a couple of things were evident. One, the parents didn't know who to cheer because they didn't know the players on their child's team. And the second thing, by taking away competition, we made it more competitive. If a child made a mistake, it didn't matter. There was no scores or standings. So I promise you, we had children pulling off bicycle kicks on that floor, diving headers. They were just on show and performing. Whereas I feel at times in games where this is really important, we're playing our rival team, and if we don't win, we drop to second place. We may not get to provincials or nationals or something. Then we get inhibited. So taking away the competition really did encourage more competition within the children. The other thing I want to say on selecting teams, because one of the elements that I think is thrown back is that you lose the social interaction. The name, we get the girls team with the pink shirts who call themselves the Pink Panthers, or the Blue Bruisers for the boys, or whatever. So this is how we landed in Canada 12 years ago, put our boys in hockey, and I use it as a hockey example because English boys playing hockey are not very good. So we're in Cochrane, and my son gets picked on a team with Sam Norris, who's Steve Norris's son. I don't know if you know him. He helped write long-term player development. Sam Norris is now playing good junior hockey. My son is still playing soccer. They're on the same team because we're Canadian and we want the teams to be balanced and fair. So it's great. I will sit down with Steve Norris and we're best of friends. We can chat and it's great. But the team we're playing, so we're the blue team, the red team, we don't talk to any of those parents. The kids don't mix because we're rival teams at initiation hockey. Next season, we do more tryouts, and lo and behold, I'm now on the red team. I don't talk to Steve Norris because his son's now still on the blue team. And what we do is we create those divides within a small community like Cochrane or wherever you are. We would create those divides, and the children take those to school. And if you don't believe me, you only need to go to the soccer centre in Calgary and come out up the stairs with your team after a game where they've won or lost, and see the sets of parents on either side of the stairs waiting to congratulate or sympathise with the teams. So we create those divides by putting children into these rival teams at an early age instead of focusing on trying to learn to play. And I will say, these children, I've seen so many players who've been through the Mini-Stars program, and for those involved with the CUSA League down in Calgary now, I go out and help one of the teams there, and so many of the boys who started in the Mini-Stars are there on different teams. They're wearing green, blue, orange shirts, and they're coming up and shaking hands with each other. They're the best of friends, and they met in this mix and match scenario. So they transcend the we are orange, we are green, we are blue, we are red, and they see the game. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to encourage mixing up. So how would that work? The children come in, and I've got it down to a T, and you guys could probably do it. If they're my children, I'd get the coaches behind me and I tap the children on the head, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can mix and match the players each week how you wish. So on one of the Mini-Stars program, 1 week we'd separate the genders, then we'd separate the ages because we had a free age group, then we might separate ability. So each week the children are learning to play with different people on their team, and it challenges them. Another scenario I'll give you to support this was in one community, there was a big boy, U10, who could score from the halfway line on an arena. And the other teams were scared to play against him because whenever he got the ball, he just kicked it in the goal. So I said, why didn't you mix him up and put him on the other team? Well, they didn't want him. They were just scared. And the coach whose team he was on didn't want to lose him because he was going to win the game. And it was interesting because he was a bigger boy. One of the coaches said that he actually knew the boy, and he took his team to introduce him to this monster as such, to show that he's just a normal 10-year-old boy who could strike well. On the technical side, I'm asking, he can strike well, but can he dribble and get through those boys? Maybe, maybe not, because he doesn't have to. So should we be encouraging that? Okay, competition then. Competition does come, development does come through competition. This is an interesting picture I picked up on the internet, and a sad reality. We see it all too often now. I remember being in one community doing some grassroots and saying to the director up there, wow, look at those weirdos. What are they doing? There was 3 or 4 15-year-old boys out playing soccer in a goal, and it was fantastic to see. Now, what is missing in when I was thinking about this, if we go to a lot of European countries, everyone goes out and plays soccer from a very early age. It's not as scheduled, if I can say this, it's not as scheduled and structured as it is here. If we look at in Edmonton, Calgary, there's probably 3 or 4 very strong teams in each tier 1 and not many below that. So there isn't a balanced level of play. So we need to get more children playing, and we need to get more coaches in coaching. And I think that's one of the benefits that this break has given us. Can we get children back playing? and increasing the competition for the players who want to progress. So it's numbers. Other possible barriers to this is the fees, travel, and scheduled commitment. Certainly for the coaches, I'm wondering now how many parents are going to want to get out 4, 5, 6 times a week for practice, or are they going to want to do something like the preferred training model where the kids can come along, mix up, and just play and enjoy the game and learn. We also need to entice more coaches in as well, and this is why the preferred training model works for me. As a young coach, I've been thinking back to when I first started coaching. I got given a team. I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have much of a clue. We'd lose by double figures, and it was a struggle. So I was judged purely on wins and losses by the parents. And when we're doing a team, I still feel that is the way. On the preferred training model, I may be working alongside someone this week and someone different the next week, and it's a prime environment for plagiarism, stealing, and taking ideas from other coaches. And that's what we need to do when we bring new coaches in. So if I bring a mum in to work with me, she doesn't feel in awe because she's following me and picking up my cones. She can learn something off me. I can learn something off her. So the preferred training model, when I sell it to communities, I'm not even looking at the players. I'm looking at the coaches that I'm working with, because if I work with 10 coaches, I can equally work with 100 children at the same time, because they will go out and influence them. This is how, and I'm saying this is how coach recruitment has been going on in Canada for a long time, since I've been here. We get a phone call as a parent from the local association, and they say, please, can you come and coach? We haven't got a coach. Sorry, I've got work. I'm scheduled night work. Then we get a phone call 2 weeks later. Look, if you don't, there's no team. Okay, we'll do it. And I'm suggesting, certainly to the people from clubs and that here, we need to change how we approach this. And yeah, I'm saying we need to flip the coin. Instead of saying, please, can you come and help us? We got to explain to parents what we as a soccer community, as a club, are providing to parent coaches. And I often ask this, why coach? And it's got to be for the same reasons as children. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, we don't want to coach. So we've got to make it fun. And the children, the coaches have got to learn to feel valued within that. So they're not put for a coaching course, given a bag of balls and sent to a far field down the other end of town. They're there and they're felt valued. And it's interesting, as parents of young children, we want to see standings because it shows us where they are. But when we go on a field as a coach, first-time coach, that fear of judgment and competition scares the living daylights out of us. So the preferred training model, in a sense, takes away the competition for the parents coming into the game, the coaches, and it encourages the goals for me are engagement and fun, and the children are active, engaged, and having fun. So again, how can we encourage new coaches? Some of the skills that you'll get through coaching, and most of you will know this, but can we spin it to the parents, is leadership, social skills, communication to children and adults. Again, even trying to encourage other parents to come in and help you. Organizational skills. There's so many skills that you can get through coaching. And if we went to a college for those skills, we'd pay a lot of money. But instead, we offer them through coaching, through begging people to come in and help us. And we should be selling, as providers of soccer, what opportunities we offer coaches. And so one of the questions I put out to a lot of coaches that I work with is, what do you hope to get from your season? What do you as a coach hope to get from this season? So if we do get outside in the next few weeks, and it might be social distance coaching, that's going to be a challenge for all of us, even experienced coaches. So what am I going to learn from coaching in the next few weeks? I'm going to learn to be adaptable. I'm going to have to learn to be flexible to the children's needs. I'm going to have to learn to be quite autocratic in collecting data. So these are the things that coach can offer. And like I say, it's mixed in and matching of coaches as well as players. So these are some of the things. And I'm also saying, in there being a role model, I know nothing about soccer. My 3 children will tell you that. I'm absolutely clueless because they're my children. But when you go out in the field, I know there's coaches in Calgary, some younger coaches who style their hair in a particular way, and the children copy their hair. That's the role model influence that we have. If you start wearing green shoes, they'll start wearing green shoes. There's a sense of achievement and pride in coaching. And I feel coaches really should respect the role that they take on when they step on that field. It's not, I get upset when people say it's about babysitting. We're not babysitters. The children are there for a reason, and they're there to have fun and be engaged. And that's what we need to be doing. So, like I said, the one thing we need is when you send your child to a program to have fun, it's important that we as coaches have that fun, because that's who they learn off. They learn that element off of us. I'm just going to quickly show you this slide here. Some of the changing roles of coaching a team, the square wheel, as I call it, and the preferred training model. In the square wheel, we're leaders by ourselves, maybe with an assistant walking around with a bag of cones. And the preferred training model, you'd be part of a team. There'd be a head coach or maybe two, and then you would work in the stations with different coaches each week. You're judged on play engagement, not wins, losses. Team selection, everyone plays and the players are rotated around. There's no subs, there's no parents saying, why did my child only play 5 minutes? You're working on technical stuff instead of tactical stuff too early. Swirling motions in midfield for U6s. I look on some of the websites from England, and some of the tactics that we're encouraging children to learn at an early age when some of the professionals are struggling with them. Again, parents engaged. On the PTM, I rolled this out lock, stock, barrel in Grand Prairie last year. And I asked the lady who took on the lead role post-event, 2 months afterwards. I'd done some debriefing right after it, and I let her stew for a couple of months. I said, please, Leanne, tell me, what was the one real big take-home that you got? And she said it was community. We had the parents, the kids, and the coaches all coming together, and it really developed our community because it was on one central field. Again, practice drills, activities, central location, many locations. In some communities, if you're playing a game, you need a field with 2 goals. That means that you've got to go to 3 or 4 different fields, even in a smaller community. Here, everyone comes together, and they can engage. You can see the parents and grandparents engaging, and hopefully that will open up in the next few weeks. Now, another thing that this was a program that I was about to roll out before COVID hit. COVID hit and I couldn't do it. So I'm doing it online, and I'm sure most of you now used to webinars. I've asked what is one of the benefits that we get from being in lockdown. And 2 months ago, I would never dreamed of doing a podcast or a webinar, not a chance. And 2 months on, maybe we're getting a little bit tired out from sitting on screens so much. But the coaching circle comes from some work I'm doing with Indigenous soccer and the sharing circle. And it's that sharing of ideas, that plagiarism, watching other people and seeing that little spark that they use, the little trick that they use to connect with children. So I'm suggesting it's an opportunity to reconnect within a disconnected community. And by that, I mean a soccer community where, being A-type personalities, competitive, we don't share these ideas. We don't share them enough. We might sit down after a big game and have a beer and tease each other about who got the result, but we don't share good practice enough. So the idea of a coach circle, and again, I'm happy to offer these to any of your communities or your clubs. We've got a 4-week sort of webinar series similar to this that goes through LTPD, engaging parents, preferred training model, and transformational leadership. How do you make that connection with children? So it gives an opportunity for coaches to host their own development sessions. Social pickup games is something I'd include in there. One of the big barriers for parents coming in is they can't do the moves that the children are doing. Well, maybe if we do pickup games, they might learn to enjoy and master those. We don't expect them to do them like Lionel Messi, but to have a go. And if a new parent coach coming in soccer doesn't perform a drill too well, the kids love that. They love it when you can't do, as a coach, you can't do a move and they can. So it gives you an opportunity, a coaching circle gives you an opportunity to bring your community together. So guys, who are the most important people in soccer? I'm reading through, and I appreciate that, but again, it's a tricky scenario with lots of people on. Anyone want to type in who they feel the most important people in soccer are? And here's a clue. I think we have one or two referees online. Maybe it's them. I don't think the coaches will agree. I'm saying the most important people in soccer are the new parent coaches coming in. The parent coaches of the U4s, U5s, U6s now that are coming in. And I done a webinar last night with Red Deer, and we had 3 new coaches come on with some very senior coaches, and it was fantastic engagement. The new parents coming in, they're going to be our coaches, officials, and administrators for the future of the game. So I think the coaching circle, the environment that we can create after this COVID is key to taking the game forward. I'm not going to be in this game 15 years time down the road. I hope, well, maybe I will. I hope not. So this game is about to be handed over, and what we need to do is embrace the players and new ideas to take the game forward. I just like this quote. And if those of you don't know him, Johan Cruyff is up there with Lionel Messi, Pelé, and all the rest. I trained about 4 hours a week at Ajax, but played 4 hours a day in the street. I'll tell you, working, it may have changed in the 12 years since I left England. Working at high performance in England, we would train at under 15. We would train twice a week for 2 hours and play 1 game. That's all the boys done. The rest of the time, they would be out doing their own soccer activities. So I'm suggesting there, those that play become players. And I know I posted at the beginning of COVID, one of the best lockdown drills I think you can do is if you've got a child at home who's bored, give them the ball, send them into the yard or the garden and tell them to go and play. See what they do. Just watch them. Watch them for 5-10 minutes. What do they do? If they sit there, they're probably not going to be the player. The boys and girls who get up and juggle a ball, practice on their left foot, get frustrated. I saw a video of one young girl playing with a golf ball on a crazy golf course and trying to get a hole in one. The ones who come up with imagination. I don't know how many of you just watched Last Dance with Michael Jordan. First one in practice, last one out, just shooting hoops. So the players that play will become the players of the future. And I'm going to leave that sort of image there for you, because one of the things that I feel when I was looking at preferred training model when it first come on, with the rotating stations, the mixing and matching and the chaos, it looked like the image to me on the left. Obviously with smaller groups, smaller numbers, more so than the image on the right. And I think that's one of the benefits of trying to create the street soccer in an environment that is going to be supportive to the parents coming in. Rather, obviously, we cannot go and play soccer. If you look at that street on the left, it's fantastic. There's not one car there. And if you probably drive down that street now, there will be not 1 inch spare space. So that's a change in societies. So I want to quickly, before we open up for questions and we can unmute you, and please feel free to ask any questions on this. Some of the opportunities we got, coaching circle is what I've just described. It's an opportunity to do a webinar with your coaches now and get them engaged. And before we go out and play, they can ask questions about how to adapt sessions for social distancing. The Sideline Winners is a program, a free series webinar that I developed with Airdrie Soccer for parents, so they can understand what we're asking of coaches in terms of physical development and long-term player development. why we're doing the preferred training model. So it's really speaking to parents and how to really support your child in soccer. You know, I keep coming out with the one word that I used to use, but you shouldn't use, and probably all of you use, was the one word we shouldn't use is but. You played really well today, son. I love the goal you scored, but. So we're covering issues like that, and it's an open discussion. Some people are asking for resources. On our website, we have a whole host of resources under technical resources there, and they're for players, coaches, and grassroots. I was just developing a video library. I've got 3 sessions up, and before we could get out to the next session, COVID came in. Changing the Game project is John O'Sullivan. Some of you might have heard of him, John Sullivan. He's the one who is talking and presents the videos on the car ride home, really talking about parent engagement, multi-sport approach. And the one comment you should be saying to your children, again, I failed at this because I was a coach before I became a parent, is I loved watching you play. The last one, Respect Group, is the Respect in Sport program that every parent has to do if they want their child to play hockey. I do want to support for all of us at the moment. I know Claire's done it. I've just done my safe sport certification. This is a great time to go out and get those certificates that been left on the back burner because we're too busy with running kids to soccer, running to soccer practice for ourselves, running to get the other children to hockey or swimming or something. So use this opportunity to look out resources. I will say, last thing I'll say is, if you are watching games, a lot of people going on and watching, and I mentioned it last night, watching Pep Guardiola's high press and trying to impose that on their U8 team. If you're coaching U8s, go on YouTube and watch U8s. If you're coaching U12s, go on YouTube and watch U12s. We need to coach the game that the children are playing, not the game that the professionals are playing. That will come to them at the right time. They'll be in the right time, in the right place, and hopefully with the right coaches then. So thank you for listening. I'm going to open it out now for questions, and please, I want you to think of this as you're the champion in your community, and a parent comes and asks a question. How are you going to answer it? And if you're not sure, ask me, and hopefully I might be able to address how I'd answer it. So let's open out for any questions. Has anyone got anyone? I don't know if you can unmute, Claire.
Hey, John.
Hiya.
This is Kat. I work with Calgary Blizzard.
Yeah.
And I'm new enough here and new enough to the preferred training model. And I was just wondering if you had kind of any tips for social interactions with the players and developing relationships with the players. One thing that some of my coaches have mentioned is they found it tough to develop deeper connections with players as they're with them for short times. As they go from one station to the next.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I'll give you an analogy, and I use this. If you work as a high school teacher, your cohort is your group class. That's your cohort. You look after them, but you also probably get to know the children in your grade, and within that, you'll expand and you'll get to probably know all the children in high school at some point. So the connections aren't so strong. But what children will do is, and I've seen it over the years, and I've said this, boys will normally rally to the really good players, which is harsh. And then, so everyone else has got to catch up. Sometimes, and again, you'll see children all give a smile to someone and they'll get that connection. So as coaches, we've got to be those role models and be ultra friendly. And I've said this before, if I'm playing in a game, I'm doing a game station, and I've got that young girl who couldn't play, I would be playing in the game. I'd be stealing the ball and giving it to her and making sure that she's seen and giving her high fives. And that's one of the things that we can do. I think the initial few times that you do a preferred training model, children will be missing out, and it will take a little bit longer. But once they see the same characteristics, it's like, honestly, like when we go to high school, we get to know everyone there and eventually. But we're not clumped into one classroom and follow each other around all the time. So I know that the old model, we could form real good relationships and we'd do the phone list and stuff like that, and we'd go to tournaments. This model, I think, creates more friendships within the community on one team rather than separating them. And you know, I know phase 2 of the return to play is working, so the Blizzard kids will be playing within Blizzards only until we get to phase 3 when you can go out and play. And I just think that's where this sits. It really creates a focus on it's not too important at the moment. Let's just play and enjoy. And when they go into those higher levels and competitive teams, those bonds will still be there as well. I hope that answers your question.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Has anyone else got any questions they want to bring in like that? Thank you for your time. If anyone has got any questions or any follow-up, please feel free to email me at Alberta Soccer. I hope I've helped some of you answer some questions that you may get. Like I say, the goal for me is that you become champions of changing your communities. All right, so if there's no more questions, I'll hang on for a moment, and I wish you all a good night and hopefully see you out in the field soon.